in all your works, I have a huge sense of compassion. The compassion that you're showing your subjects, if that's the right word, the compassion of the people themselves very often. I wonder if there's a distinction between compassion and pity, so that the object of the exercise is not for us simply to feel sorry, or to say, although of course we all do, it's wretched that any human being in the 21st century has to go through anything like this. But somehow you wanted to say rather more than that, or to put it the other way, the people who you paint want you to say rather more. Could you say something about that? And perhaps also in relation to the compassion of God, because God doesn't just pity us.
No.
When God has compassion on us, it is to help us move ahead, and recover dignity in the process. But talk about that.
I think there's a quote by St. Francis of Assisi which says, "Pity weeps and turns away, but compassion weeps and puts out a hand to help."
Oh, I didn't know. It's wonderful. Yeah.
But I think compassion is very different. It's a way of almost entering into the suffering of another.
Yeah.
It's from the Latin words, I think, derived from com, meaning with, and pati, to suffer. That's to suffer with. Whereas pity, I think, is much more removed. You're almost distant. You're kind of almost above and aloof from the suffering. It's not an entering into it. I think compassion is also what motivates you to action too. As like that quote from St. Francis kind of illustrates as well. I think, and because compassion being that entering into suffering speaks of the compassion of God who sits with us and weeps with us in our pain. Like when like the shortest verse in the Bible describes how Jesus wept in response to Mary and Martha's grief at the loss of their brother. He wasn't he wasn't dismissing their pain in any way. He was with them and alongside it, even though I find it so interesting, because even though he knew he was going to turn their sadness into joy,
indeed,
from the dead,
he still weeps.
He still weeps and still enters into what they are experiencing. Almost maybe his action comes out of feeling that deep compassion as well. He's moved, that he first initially feels that compassion before he does anything, which is beautiful, I think.
That's terrific.
And so I think,
sorry, carry on.
There's an amazing verse by Simone Weil, I love her writings. I've got it written here. She talks about how in true love, it's not we who love the afflicted in God, it is God in us who loves them. And she says, God is longing to come down to those in affliction, and as soon as the soul is disposed to ascend, God will precipitate himself into it in order, through it, to look at and listen to the afflicted. And wherever the afflicted are loved for themselves alone, it is God who is present. I think that those words just really sum up.
No, there's terrific words.